All right, so this
Sorry.
today we are going to do a reaction video to the new Ahsoka trailer that dropped yesterday. None of us have seen it yet. Is that correct?
Correct.
No,
Correct. Okay.
yeah, I haven't seen it.
So this will be our a legit reaction from us for the new Ahsoka trailer, and I believe we are all queued up and ready to go. So is everybody good? All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Ready in three, two, one, play.
War is inevitable. One must destroy in order to
Oh,
create.
Damn.
We are no Jedi.
ooh,
Ouch.
that's dark.
I started hearing whispers of Thrawn's return as heir to the Empire.
What happens when we find Thrawn?
Power,
I'm so glad she's
such
back.
as you'd never dreamed.
I've spent most of my life fighting a war. That's why I'm trying to convince you to help me prevent another one. You and I both know who
On
can help you
Mothma.
with this.
She's still just as stubborn as ever.
It's like a crayon
Your master found
batch of
Yeah.
crayons.
And
Yeah.
I never got to finish my
Everybody's a
training.
different
I
color.
walked away from him, just like I walked away from Sabine. You never made things easy for me, Master.
As
Huh.
a Jedi, sometimes you have
Okay.
to make the decision no one else can.
There's Ezra.
But I'm counting on you to see this through.
Nice haircut. Sometimes we have to do what's right, regardless of our personal feelings.
Oh, there's the mural.
Buckle up.
They look like they did in the
If we don't
cartoon.
stop Thrawn, everything will be in vain.
Oh, nice.
Oh, cool.
You have no power.
Anakin spoke highly of you.
Oh,
I'm not here to
So he knew
discuss my
Anakin.
past.
We have a lot of work to do.
Once a rebel, always a rebel.
ooh, 2 episode premiere.
Huh.
Oh,
All right. Okay.
Well, the music was convinced it was very important.
Yes, the music was very dramatic. All right, so that was the new Ahsoka trailer. I'm assuming that's the final one since we're only about 4 weeks out, 4 or 5 weeks out from the premiere. What'd you guys think?
it looks impressive. I'm excited. It was cool to see Hera. And then, of course, Thrawn, I know that most people have been waiting for, but I like seeing Hera and Sabine. And we didn't hear Ezra speak in the previous trailer,
No,
did
in the
we?
preview trailer,
No.
he wasn't speaking. He just showed the image without any audio.
Yeah.
Am
it
I
is neat.
getting the impression that they're making Sabine a Jedi now?
Yeah, I don't know if she's force sensitive, but if you recall, they did that in Rebels because you remember she trained for a bit under Kanan.
With the dark saber.
Yeah,
Right.
with
It
the
was
dark
because
saber.
she wanted to
But
use the
because
dark
she
saber for a
needed to wield the dark
specific
saber, I
thing.
have no
Yeah.
idea if she's force sensitive. I don't know that she is.
But it
But
showed her with a lightsaber
it
there.
showed her with a lightsaber, and
Yeah.
she specifically called her master. So
Right.
that's odd. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I
And
don't know how
then
to feel
Ahsoka
about that.
mentioned abandoning her. Now, I told you guys before we start watching this, before we start recording, that I'm rewatching Rebels right now to prepare for Ahsoka. And I'm into the beginning of the third season, and I can't remember what happens with Ahsoka. Uh, Is there some way in which she leaves Sabine or something in the Rebels, or is that you think referring
No,
to
that
something
must be
else?
something I think that happens later because if you remember, and by the way, spoilers if you haven't watched Rebels, I'm going to talk about the ending of the whole series here, people. But yeah, if you remember, like one of the very last scenes was them planning on teaming up to go find Ezra,
Okay,
and that's kind of how
okay,
Rebels left off. So
okay.
yeah.
So I wonder if the hologram that Sabine is looking at of Ezra, is that something from, I guess that's something from before his disappearance.
That's
Would
what I'm
that be
guessing.
true?
I'm wondering that's kind of what I'm questioning. Is that actually a live communication, or is that's probably, I'm guessing it's probably more of a archived recording that she's
Yeah.
watching of him.
Yeah. So we still don't know for sure that he will actually be appearing in
Correct.
real time in terms of the series.
Right, other than just as a projection.
Yeah.
I think looking for him will be part of the plot.
I
Looking for him
agree.
and for Thrawn.
It may be
And
one of those things where
I still have a feeling that he's one of the characters in the mask, but that's just my opinion.
I have an opinion on who that might be.
Oh yeah,
Not based on any rumors or anything I've heard, because I haven't been watching anything. Just my own guess on knowing Filoni, the way he likes to bring characters in from Clone Wars and the stuff that he's created. I have a feeling that might be, because it's a red saber, clearly an Inquisitor. It looks like someone who was an Inquisitor at one time. With that sort of blade, it might be Barriss Offee.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Who is that?
From Clone Wars, she was the one who was a Jedi Padawan. They teamed up on several episodes.
Was she the one who betrayed Ahsoka?
Yeah, she ended up betraying Ahsoka and kind of started to kind of turn to the dark side towards the end of Clone Wars.
And so in Clone Wars, we never really found out what happened to her, did we?
No, it was never resolved. Yeah.
Oh, that
so I have a feeling
like
it might be somebody like that.
Yeah. That would seem to be a good choice. I am excited that we got to actually see Thrawn, because it confirms that we'll actually see him this season.
Right.
I was kind of worried that we wouldn't see him at all,
Yeah.
So
I agree. And I think that little clip that they showed on this one is what they actually showed at Celebration to the attendees only. Because the one that they showed actually on like the simulcast, if you were watching that, had a truncated version of the trailer. There were like 3 or 4 cutscenes that were not shown to the digital audience. And I think that was the thing, just a quick shot of what his face looks like.
Yeah.
And I think it looks good. I mean, just in the brief glimpse that we got, it, because I know I've heard other people talk about how it's hard to pull off blue, and it might, without it just looking fake and stupid looking. Like how you're gonna pull off, like it's kind of like what we've talked about before. Some things are so much easier in animation than they are in real life. In live action, and that's like blue skin, red eyes. Like, will that just come off as comical?
An adjustment trying to like bring an anime to real life and trying to copy the anime's actual
you can't do
art
it,
style in a real style. Have people have all the spiky hair and the colored hair and it just takes an adjustment. You're either going to get over it and see past it or not. And
right.
we used to watch Farscape, and there was plenty of blue and orange characters on there.
Oh no, yeah, there were. I watched Farscape as well.
So kind of been, and then but there's a fine line, because it either looks like he's got prosthetics on, or he's a member of Blue Man Group. Like there's some vivid paint on there or something, or it just looks like a person with really well, painted skin. Which
right, exactly.
But hey, whatever. It's Thrawn. It's they chose to make him that way, and it's too late to alter that.
Yep, you can't change the skin color now.
He's played by the same actor that played him in Rebels animated.
The voiced him in everything. Okay. Yep.
Right.
Yeah, which I like
that. That's my big reservation about this show, is that I just feel like it's everything they're showing. It's kind of turning into a Rebels sequel, and Filoni even said that, or they quoted him as that. I didn't read the whole article, so I may be out of context or wrong. If you read it, it might give you a different impression, but
I think it definitely is. I mean, it looks like the main plot is going to be trying to find. I don't know what I'm basing that on. They really didn't show a lot of search for Ezra in the trailer. They mostly are focused on that one character, Balin Skoll, and it looks like he's trying to reach the world between worlds. Because if we look at the stuff on that trailer where they're fighting, he's fighting with Ahsoka, and there's like, to me, what I could glimpse on what we saw, it looks like a projection. It's not that they're not actually in the world between worlds, but like a projection of it around them. So I don't know, maybe there's somehow he's trying to find map coordinates or something like that to figure out where it is. Maybe something along the lines of what they did to find Luke in the sequel trilogy, something like that. Trying to have
now, when is this supposed to be set in terms of the overall Star Wars timeline?
Well, from what I understand, it's supposed to all be post. It's basically around the same time as
6 to
Mandalorian.
10 years after Return of the Jedi.
Okay.
Yeah, so roughly the same time as Mandalorian.
So everybody still basically thinks the Emperor's dead. So I don't
Correct.
think that the new villains then would necessarily be open agents of the Emperor.
Right.
Okay. Because the Emperor was interested in getting hold of the portals in the world between worlds.
Yeah. Right,
too,
right. But that,
right?
of course, in Rebels, which takes place before A New Hope.
Yeah,
So,
before.
yeah.
Well, he was still
I
alive.
wonder how that
Power, yeah.
how that woman got away from the villagers in the Mandalorian, the Jedi episode of the Mandalorian. You know, they faced off, and she said, "Where is Thrawn?" And then the next thing you know, she's got her captured or whatever. Didn't the villagers have her, or the planet people have her
I think so. Yeah, the
as
locals.
prisoner?
I
So
believe
how
so.
did
Yes.
she get out? How did she get out of that to get to where
Right. So obviously she got out
is
somehow.
now? Yeah, and why doesn't she? Does she not know where Thrawn is? Because there's a question in the trailer. What happens if we find Thrawn or something like that? And he said power. So it looks like the bad guys are looking for Thrawn.
Yeah, it
And
is.
there
I
was
mean,
an
and we got a
implication of the
taste of that.
Mandalorian that nobody's seen Thrawn for a
Right.
while.
That's what
So
that's what I was just going to bring up, that in the last season of Mandalorian, we got that discussion about, you know, is he going to come back? You know, when is he going to come back? And, they were even asking, Gideon was like, well, when's he going to come back? I'm not waiting around. It's time for new leadership,
you read the books, right? The
I've
Thrawn
read
books,
I've
the
read
new
almost
ones.
all. I've read most of the Thrawn books, yes.
Is there anything in there that would explain what his motivation would be for coming back and leading the Empire at this point?
Um, not completely. And that's something that I know you and I have talked about before on previous episodes, where I'm really hope they get the character right.
Yeah.
I'm a little hesitant because I don't really like how he was treated in Rebels,
check it out.
very well. I don't think they got him, quite, because he's not, the atypical Imperial, officer forced to
No,
dominate the
he's not
universe.
trying to climb any particular
Right.
power thing. He's more trying to preserve the Imperial way of life, but his motivations end up being kind of personal. And
Right.
I remember in the Heir to the Empire trilogy, it doesn't go in depth into what his real motivations are.
Right.
Except that perhaps he's trying to reestablish order,
Reestablish order, and he's also got a big thing about his own people and
right,
keeping
but I
them
don't know if
from.
that was in the very original books.
No, it
Was it?
wasn't. That was in one of the other
Yeah,
trilogies that I've read.
that's the only ones I've
Yeah.
read, is the very original ones.
Yeah,
So
the other trilogies go
they
way more
expand
into
upon his
detail on his
motivation.
background,
Yeah.
where he came from, how he got to where he was. It tells like that whole story.
I just wonder if that's going to come into play, or if we're just going to have to accept that he is a threat. And I don't know. It's about time we had a good villain and a villain with some screen time and backstory. And
Yeah.
I don't want it to be exhausted. I want him to have some mystery and mystique and everything. But
Yeah.
and it looks to me like Balin is matching up with Ahsoka fight wise. Then his apprentice is matching up with Sabine, because it showed them fighting with sabers now, which is still shocking to me. I don't know what Sabine is doing with a saber, but and even Ezra said, as a Jedi, you have to do what's right, and I'm counting on you. Almost like he knows she's going to be a Jedi or something.
Yeah,
but
very
strange. It could be one of those situations. I think this might have even happened in Rebels. I think she might have used just like in a single scene, like Ezra's lightsaber or something, after she
I don't
trained
recall.
with the dark
I remember her with the dark saber, but I don't remember anything else.
Yeah, just
but she was definitely Mandalorian, though.
Yeah.
They even were rivals, because she said, "I got all the same powers you do. They're just in my machines that I'm trained to use." And so it kind of, that was what was cool about it. They illustrated how the Mandalorians were kind of a techno version of a Jedi, even being able to use a grappling wire to pull your weapon back to you and stuff, just like the standard Jedi move to pull your saber when you're disarmed or something.
Exactly.
And jetpack to leap and all that. But but yeah, so I'm still a little. I'm trying to process that she would have the Force all of a sudden.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
But anyway, so the woman who's trying to find Thrawn, who is the bad woman, the magistrate, she's kind of Ahsoka's rival too. So I could see Barriss Offee being in there, but it almost seems like throwing in even one more rival where it'd be crowded room. You know what I mean?
Would,
like
yeah.
why we've got Thrawn to get to. Whoever Thrawn's direct underlings are, he's got to have some guys around him or people around him that are a threat.
Sure.
I'm wondering, with the sad passing of Ray, who played Balin,
Ray Stevenson. Yeah.
Ray Stevenson. I'm hoping his character, is killed off or has a end to his story in this first season. Yeah. If he was still alive, of course, I would not want that because I think he's just I love that guy.
Yeah,
I
love that
everything,
actor.
A lot of stuff he's done, I've always been into. So it's just a shame he's gone. But so anyway, I still stick to my thing that if there's going to be some kind of MacGuffin or mystery around Ezra, maybe they just don't want to address it yet. They're going to get to it in season 2, and he'll be his old self. But I think it would be more interesting to bring him back as a mystery character. I see him being with the bad guys, and wearing a mask, and they don't know that's him they're fighting.
I see. Yeah.
Either Thrawn has figured out a way to brainwash him or erase his mind or
right, because you'd have to explain
control him in some way. Right. Or he's won him over to his side and shown him like he's seen a vision of the future where the Jedi are destroyed again, and the First Order and all that. And maybe Thrawn is trying to prevent the First Order with their crazy, just homicidal ways of just blowing up all systems for no reason, and he's trying to bring something more reasonable. I don't know, it depends on how deep they're going to go with the Thrawn character. If he's more of an anti-hero, I could see Ezra working with him. I mean, Ezra, did listen to Darth Maul a little bit. I mean, there's no question. I don't think at the end of the day that Ezra was going to be a good guy. He is a good guy.
Right. Yeah.
But there is a precedent there where if he felt it was right and he spent enough time, we don't know how many years have gone by, that he's been missing. If it was before the Battle of Yavin and he's been missing that whole time, that's several years. That's plenty of time to change your perspective.
Yeah, it's going to be what, 10 years almost, at least, or a little bit more.
And if he and Thrawn were thrown into a situation where they had to work together to survive, and there's no empire around, and not necessarily an empire around or rebellion or whatever around for them to choose sides, and they just work together, I could see them,
teaming up
and developing respect for for each other and all that, because that's the kind of bad guy Thrawn is,
right?
And that's the kind of good guy Ezra is. He's not eager to just kill people, or he was always looking for a way to get out of a situation that made sense and not just being dogmatic, so,
right.
I think that would be interesting. I don't know if they'll take that opportunity, but you've already got a gallery of kind of heroes here that they're bringing into the fray. They're bringing a bunch of new villains. They could just have a reunion with Ezra, just be heartwarming, or they could bring some real drama. And if they can explain what everyone's fighting for,
right?
That's the big
thing we don't get.
Yeah,
exactly.
But you bring in World Between Worlds, and you up the stakes. It's like everyone may have, this is like the white whale. This is like people may be driven by revenge. They may be driven by the desire to shape reality back to something that is their heart's desire. You're dealing with fundamental stuff that people will not give up on. They'll fight to the death for.
Right.
And so, maybe Ezra wants to bring back Kanan or something, right some kind of wrong or something. And maybe, I've always thought this too, is like every time you set up a situation where someone says, I found the power to hit the reset button, but to do it, I'm going to have to get my hands dirty. Well, if you're going to hit a reset button on a universe or whatever, it almost doesn't matter if your friends get killed along the way, because your journey is to try to bring a better world where they will exist again in a happier state. You see what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
So that's always interesting when they have these big stakes where the bad guy is like, it's going to be okay. This is all temporary and this is all a mistake, and we're going to set it right, and you'll end up being happy, even though we had to slaughter a lot of you to get what we want, to get there. It's kind of like the ends justifying the means and all that, So, but I don't know. I don't think they're going to go with some super huge World Between Worlds storyline. If they do, I hope they just use it to say we're now going into an alternate timeline from the sequel trilogy.
I almost think it's going to be
really cool.
That would be an interesting way to explain it.
Yeah, because then you can keep them both. Your sequel trilogy fans can go see the new movies and stuff and say this all happened in the same exact order. The original trilogy was still in the same timeline, but we have a multiverse kind of thing going where both stories can exist and they're just different. But that'll never happen.
No. Honestly, I think it's going to be a MacGuffin. Basically, I really think this is going to be something that this Balin character is searching for whatever reason that we don't know yet. And they have to
stop him because he could cause a lot of harm.
He could really cause a lot of chaos if he accesses it. Yeah,
and he probably the typical thing where he'll get what he wants and then he gets destroyed by it because he doesn't know what he wanted was unnatural.
Yeah, he gets destroyed by exactly what it was he was seeking. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, good point.
So you don't think there will necessarily be any time travel?
Not necessarily. If anything, we may get
like
glimpses of the past. Like flashbacks because of that. I don't know that we're necessarily, I don't think it's going to go full on Star Trek and do time travel, but we'll see.
In a way, I feel like this is all ground we've covered before, because the same exact kind of thing happened. They went into the World Between Worlds. They saw what it could be used for, and then a great evil power, the power turned against them and they had to get out and it was destroyed. And that just seems like kind of when you are dealing with the ultimate power, that is always seems to be what happens. So we would just kind of have the same story. And one thing the Rebels did that was pretty bold was he pulled Ahsoka out.
Yeah.
He actually changed things. He actually changed reality. So it just depends on if they're going to follow that wild streak or not. But it's dangerous. It's like, this is what corrupted Anakin, is let's make the world the way we want it to be.
Right.
And in fact,
no matter what it costs us.
How often they mentioned Anakin in the trailer.
Yeah. Yeah. And there was also a moment there. I don't know if I said anything, but did you catch Vader's breathing? There was a Vader breath a couple of times in the middle there. Yeah, that was actually in there. I'm sorry. Yeah, it was right when he said that when Balin said, "I knew Anakin." I think it was at that point. He said, "Yeah, I knew Anakin," or what Anakin told me, or whatever the line is. He says, and then in the background, I'm pretty sure there was a Vader breath.
So, do we know if Hayden Christensen is cast in this?
There was rumors, right, that he was.
Yeah, there have been rumors that he has. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, it could be a flashback.
Yeah.
She brought up Anakin about, she left him in the past, and it depends on what Filoni wants to do. If he wants to bring into live action some of the sequences, like Brilliant said, there could be a flashback to their confrontation at the Sith Holocron Temple, whatever it was. They could, and instead of trying to explain to you what the World Between Worlds does, maybe they could just show it.
Yeah.
By recreating that scene in brevity, a short version of it. I have a question that's going to get into some weird territory. You guys can discuss it as much as you feel comfortable discussing it, but any opinions about, do you think Ahsoka is now like the main character of Star Wars? Like if this goes over well, let's just assume that everybody loves this, the story is great, and she's embroiled with, what other villains do we have? Moff Gideon's gone. We got nobody, right? Until Kylo Ren and the unknown other people of the Empire. Thrawn is it. So she's being set up as the protagonist against Thrawn. She was Anakin's apprentice.
Yeah.
Obi-Wan's gone. Luke's off doing his own thing. Luke was Obi-Wan's apprentice and Yoda's apprentice. She also learned from Yoda. She's got the young kind of crew with her of interesting, colorful characters. Luke's a loner.
Yeah. She's I'm not trying appeared in more series, I guess.
Yeah.
Than any of the other
Is the plan to move forward? Because I read the book novels back in the day. Okay.
Same here.
They insist on reminding us, saying he's heir to the Empire. Nobody forced them to do that. They're reminding us of these books, and even in the promo materials, they're saying portions of this were inspired by the books or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, the major difference is there was no Ahsoka back then.
Right.
It was Luke Skywalker and Princess Leia, or Senator Organa and Han Solo and all the others. So are our guys kind of being written out of a rewritten history here, or since that was all just done away with and made legends, does it matter anymore? And how do you feel about them just not we don't know, but it doesn't seem like Luke's going to be a major figure anytime soon.
Yeah, I agree with that.
They're going to revisit the character anytime soon. So we're on board with this story now. And I guess I'm just saying, how do we feel about that? And
right.
Once again, there's more and more Jedi seeming to come out of the woodwork as needed. There's a lot of things that I held dear that are being altered here.
Yeah, the Jedi coming out of the woodwork was something that bothered me when I first started watching Rebels, because it was like, okay, we got Kanan, oh, now we got Ezra. There's all many Force sensitive.
And it was one thing if they just acted like samurai and had no more real abilities than just occasionally see in the future, really good with a lightsaber, can occasionally stop things, but they committed feats of like incredible Force majesty, both of them. They were like epic level Jedi by the end of Rebels. They had
skills comparable to all the other Jedi that we've seen.
Way more so. Yeah, more so even. I feel like that was a mistake almost. But go ahead.
I had an issue with that when I started watching Rebels. And now I've just kind of basically forgotten it. I guess. I'm kind of we've watched so much. I had not. Okay, my experience with Star Wars is mainly original trilogy. Okay, for years and years and years, that was the only stuff I watched until the sequel trilogy came along. I didn't watch any of the animated shows, and then the sequel trilogy coming along, I finally watched Clone Wars, and then finally I watched Rebels, and so everything's beginning to expand for me. I never read the expanded universe novels, so I haven't read the Thrawn novels, but now I'm kind of comfortable with this expanding and growing. As I still have the original trilogy, and it's still
that's one area where you and I are different, because I read all the novels up to a certain point. And so it wasn't like I ever considered them concrete. I knew no matter what they said these are the continuing adventures of our characters, just accept, I never really truly believed that, because I knew the minute George Lucas decided to take up the mantle again, if he decided to do a sequel to Return of the Jedi, he's not going to follow those books that 800 different authors wrote. He doesn't, no matter what he licenses to, he considers the story his. He doesn't give a damn what they came up with. So I knew in the back of my mind that they could rewrite all that stuff at any given moment. But I did read it. It's, I had my authors I liked, the ones I didn't. They had some original characters that were cool. And to me, they were very, very flawed. They didn't always capture the Star Wars feel, but it did have a history of Luke, Han, and Leia that involved them having a next generation and everything, which was all cast aside for the sequels. But they still combined elements of it, like they couldn't let it go, because they just had no ideas, I think. But so anyway, this I just got to be honest that this sort of bothers me, that we're still participating in, I feel like, throwing dirt on Luke's grave in a way, by just taking the story that was his, and by necessity, really, because you can't do anything about Mark Hamill being,
right.
Yeah.
In his age now and everything. But it still just kind of bums me out. And
I can see that, but after watching Clone Wars, after resisting for so many years watching it, when it first came out, I was like, oh, it's computer animation I don't even like, and I'm not gonna, it's probably for kids. And finally Curling kept badgering me, and finally I began watching it, and I really love the Ahsoka character now, and so I'm excited to see a full series where she's a star. But that's also because she's had so much exposure at this point. Like I said, she's been in all of the series now. So I'm looking forward to seeing her live action on her own. And I've got the bias that I never read the expanded universe book, so I can definitely see how somebody who had read all of them, and especially people who are big fans of them,
Yeah.
you know, if there's a lot of if some of the material is used, but then there's a lot of alterations that people who are expanded universe fans might not like, they might not be happy with that.
It just occurred over many years. So even if you weren't fully sold on it like me, you still grew to accept that there was a certain continuity there over time. And it also respected the core of the characters overall more, as far as giving them more of the kind of story that you would expect them to have than the sequel trilogy ended up giving them, where it just kind of reset all the characters back to how they started. So and it also gave you many books where Luke was hardly ever the main character. He was usually kind of in the background, but he was more the Jedi you expected to see after Return of the Jedi. Compassionate, restrained in his power, you know, non-judgmental, like he was not going around you know, trying to set all the wrongs right and trying to condemn people and stuff. He was more of a symbol or of hope that people could change, you know, and that you could choose your own path instead of just continue to follow orders and fight the same old fight for no reason. And he also built a family, you know, and and same with Leia and Han. So I guess I've derailed this a little bit, but this just that's something I'm going to kind of struggle with this. The more they involve elements from that storyline, and the more they kind of move away from the Skywalkers and stuff, I realize Ahsoka is now right in the middle of all that.
Yeah,
you know, we've had scenes with her and Luke. You know, so I hope they just don't completely sweep everything under the rug, and just because Rebels became such a thing that it's almost like it almost seemed a coincidence that it wasn't Ezra that went and saved the galaxy, you know, because he had every ability to do so, it seemed like to me.
Carillion hadn't replied to that though, and you're the big one. You're the one who's a big Clone Wars fan among us. I mean, and you said you read their expanding universe novels too?
I read a bunch of them. Yeah, not all of them by any stretch, but yeah, I did. I of course read the Thrawn trilogy, and I read several that came out in the late '90s and even into the 2000s and stuff.
Many of them were not masterpieces either. I'm not trying to say they were
some
the
of them were pretty bad.
Some of them were really bad, but some of them were surprisingly good. And like I said, they had an overall order of business, which is don't portray Luke, you know, as a bitter loser or whatever.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, they had certain things they had to keep for continuity's sake, you know, and that ended up being, I think, more respectful than the stuff we got in the long haul. But go ahead, Carillion. You have anything to add to this?
No, I think I fear that they may sweep some of this under the rug, but I have faith, at least in Filoni, that he's not going to completely do that. I don't think. I mean, we're never going to get heir to the Empire, but there's too many new things going on now that prevent that. But I think bringing Ahsoka into it, and you know, I think it's a good thing because you know, very much like what Gundark said. I really like the character. I grew to really enjoy that and get attached to the character throughout all the seasons of Clone Wars. And now, like you said, she's like the main character. She's got the young group around her that could absolutely be a main character force moving forward with Thrawn as the antagonist. And again, we've also got what's also working against this is the age of the original actors. You know, we're not going to get, you know, Luke, Han, and Leia unless they get agreements to do the aging technology and all that kind of stuff like they did in The Mandalorian and Boba Fett.
And Kathleen Kennedy's come out and said, we believe recasting is kiss of death.
Right.
For
so
the
only way they're
going
to do it is to do it that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if they could come with some sort of compromise between the two, I would be happy with that. You know, incorporate these new characters in and bring back, you know, the Luke, Hans and Leia's and Lando's or whatever with the aging technology if it works. You know, I don't have a problem with that. I've never had really a problem with the de-aging technology. So I would like to see that. So
I think it could be done sparingly to keep the storylines concurrent. and let you know that the universe is still going on. They do need to expand the universe though, and not just have every single person know every single person.
Right.
You know, the only people we see on screen are ones who happen to know each other.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll try not to let that hold me back, because it hasn't really become an issue in my mind until very recently, with a lot of the articles saying, you know, we're moving on past George Lucas's vision,
Yeah,
and we're
exactly.
moving on past this and that, and you know, there's just a lot of things that have made me think about it. And Mark Hamill saying that, you know, he doesn't see that they need Luke Skywalker anymore, or a place where Luke fits in and anything. And I get a lot of it is just an inevitability, and they're doing what they can. But I just think it's interesting. It's like they really, in my opinion, missed a chance at some point to create a cohesive, really compelling story for Star Wars beyond Return of the Jedi. And everything would be sitting so much prettier right now if they had taken the time, however long it took, once Disney acquired it and everything, to really hammer it out and say, this is the way we're going to go, and this is compelling and good, and not just say, here, we have a deadline, let's go. You know? And oh, I got it, let's just make Rebels and Empire again, you know. A lot of people have said it would have been better if the original characters faced a threat from the outside that challenged their work that they've accomplished this point, not just trash everything they accomplished and then rely on new characters to come and fix the mess a second time, like we've already seen the first time.
Right.
I think that would have been way better way to go, and would have left people not feeling so bad about everything. But we are where we are now.
Yeah, true.
But
well, any other thoughts
it looked
about
like a good trailer. I wasn't impressed with the dialogue particularly. There didn't seem to be anything that jumped out at me that
same here,
grabbed me like, oh, that's what I want to see, you know. Like in fact, there was two lines that were very similar. One said, sometimes you have to do what's right above what you feel, and then Ezra said, as a Jedi you have to do what you don't want to do sometimes. So it's like they almost
they're repeating themselves with different words.
It didn't have a deft hand to the dialogue, like where it didn't strike me as very memorable or a very great way to put these ideas. But it's better than the typical trailer where they just go, run. That's always the dialogue. Run. One man and one woman. But in a world where at least they didn't do the ding. Ding. That period seems to be over too.